You're at a gathering, surrounded by chatter and laughter. The air is filled with the sound of small talk, discussions about the weather, the latest celebrity gossip, or the mundane details of daily life. Everyone seems content to engage in these trivial exchanges, yet there's a part of you that feels disconnected, almost suffocated by the emptiness of these interactions. You try to participate, but something about the surface-level nature of it all feels exhausting, even foreign. This is a scenario that intelligent individuals often face. While the world around them seems perfectly comfortable with these brief, shallow exchanges, they find themselves avoiding them. But why is that? Why do smart people seem so averse to small talk, especially when society places so much emphasis on socializing through these very means? What makes the casual back and forth about nothing in particular draining for them? Here lies the paradox. Small talk is often seen as an essential tool for building relationships, networking, and fitting into social circles. It's considered a skill that can lead to success in both personal and professional settings. After all, we are constantly told that connections are made over casual, friendly conversations, right? But for highly intellectual individuals, this assumption doesn't hold. They see through the superficiality of these exchanges and feel the emptiness that lies beneath the surface. Conversations about the weather or the latest trends may have a place in the social fabric, but for those who crave deeper connections, they feel more like a waste of precious time. This aversion to small talk can be traced back to a desire for authenticity and intellectual depth. Nietzsche, one of the greatest philosophers of the modern era, often critiqued the society that values surface-level interaction and mediocrity. He argued that those who engage in trivial exchanges are too caught up in herd mentality, sacrificing their individuality for social conformity. For Nietzsche, authenticity meant seeking out and embracing what is true and deep, not what is easy or socially acceptable. Intelligent individuals, then, naturally gravitate towards meaningful, thought-provoking conversations, seeking connection through ideas rather than pleasantries. Meaningful conversations are the lifeblood of intellectual and emotional growth. When two individuals engage in a discussion that delves into profound topics, life, morality, philosophy, or existential questions, there is a sense of connection that transcends the mundane. The exchange of ideas fosters intellectual stimulation, while the exploration of complex issues provides emotional depth. It is within these conversations that one feels truly understood, valued for their thoughts, and challenged in ways that promote personal growth. In contrast, small talk rarely offers this depth. Conversations about the weather or the latest social trends are fleeting, surface-level exchanges that do little to engage the mind or nourish the soul. While they serve a functional purpose, breaking the silence or providing a momentary connection, they rarely leave a lasting impact. Small talk is often an exercise in pleasantries, a polite obligation rather than an opportunity for meaningful connection. For intelligent individuals, these exchanges can feel like a waste of time, a never-ending cycle of trivialities that fail to satisfy the need for deeper understanding and engagement. Smart individuals thrive in environments where ideas are freely exchanged, where discussions push the boundaries of conventional thought, and where the focus is on exploring the depths of human existence. These individuals find fulfillment in conversations that challenge their assumptions, provoke critical thinking, and expose them to new perspectives. For them, the act of engaging in a deep conversation is not just a social activity, it is a way to expand their worldview, refine their beliefs, and engage with life on a level that is both intellectually enriching and emotionally rewarding. This preference for depth over shallowness aligns with Friedrich Nietzsche's critique of the society that prioritizes mediocrity and superficiality. Nietzsche was deeply critical of the herd mentality, the idea that people often conform to societal norms without questioning or challenging them. In his view, many individuals resorted to small talk and shallow interactions to avoid confronting the uncomfortable truths about themselves and the world around them. These superficial exchanges for Nietzsche were distractions from the profound existential questions that required deep reflection and personal responsibility. Nietzsche placed great value on conversations that provoked thought and challenged assumptions, seeing them as an opportunity to transcend the ordinary and engage with life more fully. He believed that true intellectual and emotional growth comes not from agreeing with the status quo, but from questioning it, confronting the harsh realities of existence, and seeking deeper truths. The individual who is capable of engaging in this type of conversation is not merely surviving in the world, they are actively shaping their understanding of it and redefining their place within it. For Nietzsche, these intellectual exchanges were essential for the Übermensch, the overman who rises above conventional society to create their own values and pursue a life of authenticity and meaning. In a world filled with shallow interactions and empty pleasantries, smart individuals naturally find themselves drawn to those who are capable of engaging in these meaningful conversations, discussions that explore the nature of existence, the complexities of human behavior, and the moral dilemmas that shape our choices. These conversations are not just an intellectual exercise, they are a pathway to understanding the world, a way to connect with others who share a desire for depth, and a means of challenging the assumptions that often hold us back from living fully. When intelligent people engage in these types of discussions, they experience a profound sense of fulfillment. They are not merely passing the time, they are investing in themselves, in their personal growth, and in their understanding of the world. These conversations nourish their minds, fuel their curiosity, and provide a sense of connection that is grounded in authenticity and mutual respect. They leave feeling energized, inspired, and more attuned to the complexities of life. In contrast, small talk rarely provides any of these benefits. It is not that intelligent people are opposed to socializing or connecting with others, they simply prefer to do so in a way that goes beyond the superficial. They value conversations that are intellectually stimulating and emotionally engaging, where ideas are explored, beliefs are challenged, and personal growth is possible. For them, true social connection is found not in the quantity of interactions, but in the quality of the exchange. Small talk, in its essence, is a social norm designed to ease interactions and create a sense of politeness in an often complex and fast-paced world. It serves as a social lubricant, a way to bridge the gap between strangers or acquaintances, creating a temporary sense of connection without the need for deep involvement or intellectual investment. It is a quick fix for the discomfort of silence, offering a superficial sense of bonding without requiring much emotional or intellectual effort. For many, small talk is a way to establish rapport, maintain social harmony, and avoid the awkwardness of an unfilled pause in conversation. However, for intelligent individuals, small talk quickly reveals itself as a shallow and unsatisfying mode of communication. While the majority of people may use small talk as a way to fill the air with pleasant words, it often leaves intelligent people feeling intellectually starved and emotionally drained. The polite exchanges about the weather, the latest trends, or how busy everyone is, while harmless on the surface, fail to meet the deeper needs that intelligent individuals have for genuine connection and meaningful interaction. This psychological discomfort often accompanies small talk for those who thrive on intellectual stimulation. For highly intelligent individuals, these exchanges feel like an empty transaction, devoid of any real substance. They find themselves struggling to engage with topics that seem trivial, irrelevant, or banal. The effort to stay engaged with superficial discussions can be mentally exhausting, as it often involves suppressing the natural urge to explore deeper topics or engage in thoughtful debates. Instead of feeling mentally stimulated, intelligent individuals are left feeling emotionally drained by the lack of intellectual challenge. What makes this experience even more uncomfortable is the societal expectation that social interactions should be polite, smooth, and conform to the norms of small talk. Those who deviate from these expectations are often viewed as antisocial or eccentric. For intelligent individuals, the pressure to participate in small talk becomes a social burden, a requirement to conform to a system that rewards mediocrity and surface-level connections. Friedrich Nietzsche, with his penetrating critique of society, often explored this tension between authenticity and social conformity. In his view, society has a tendency to promote mediocrity, a culture that values comfort, predictability, and ease over depth, critical thought, and self-exploration. Nietzsche argued that society rewards those who follow the norms, who fit in, and who adhere to the prescribed ways of thinking and interacting. This, he believed, leads to a flattening of human potential, where intellectual rigor and authentic individuality are sacrificed in favor of social harmony and conventionality. For intelligent individuals, this social pressure can be stifling. Their refusal to participate in small talk is not a rejection of social interaction itself, but rather a rejection of the mediocrity that small talk represents. They crave intellectual and emotional engagement that goes beyond the superficial. Yet they are often marginalized for their unwillingness to engage in the shallow conventions that society demands. In Nietzsche's words, they become the outcasts or misfits, isolated for their intellectual independence and their unwillingness to conform to societal norms. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, or overman, reflects this very idea. The Übermensch is an individual who transcends conventional morality and societal expectations, choosing to live authentically, free from the constraints of the herd mentality. The intelligent individual who rejects small talk and shallow exchanges is, in some ways, embodying this ideal. They are not simply rejecting social interaction, they are rejecting the mediocrity that small talk represents, and choosing instead to engage in a more profound, more meaningful way of living. For Nietzsche, the will to power is about embracing one's own individuality and pursuing one's own path, even when it conflicts with societal norm. The intelligent individual who seeks more than just the superficial pleasantries of small talk is asserting their will to power, choosing to engage with life and people in a way that reflects their true nature and intellectual potential. However, this comes at a cost, the cost of being marginalized, labeled as different or antisocial, and often isolated in a world that values conformity over authenticity. In this sense, the discomfort that intelligent individuals feel in the face of small talk is not just a personal frustration, it is a reflection of the larger societal forces at play. These individuals are caught in the tension between their authentic selves and the expectations placed upon them by a society that favors comfort and mediocrity. The rejection of small talk, then, is not simply a preference for intellectual engagement, it is a rejection of the system that promotes shallow interactions at the expense of depth, self-exploration, and true human connection. As Nietzsche aptly put it, the most personal is the most universal. The intelligent individual's desire for meaningful conversation, intellectual stimulation, and authentic connection is not a rare or isolated desire. It is a universal human need. Yet in a world that thrives on small talk, it is a need that is often overlooked, leaving intelligent individuals to search for depth in a world that constantly seeks to keep things shallow. Avoiding small talk is not simply about a preference for solitude or intellectual superiority. It is often a quest for authenticity, the desire to connect on a deeper, more meaningful level. For intelligent individuals, authenticity is not just a desirable trait, it is a fundamental need. They crave conversations that stimulate thought, spark new ideas, and push boundaries. Small talk, on the other hand, often feels like a superficial barrier that prevents genuine connection and self-expression. When we engage in deep conversations, whether about our dreams, our fears, or the nature of existence, we allow ourselves to reveal our true selves. These conversations provide an emotional sanctuary where we can express our innermost thoughts and desires without fear of judgment. For highly intelligent individuals, the absence of these deep interactions can feel like a void, an emotional emptiness that leaves them craving more. They are not interested in discussing the weather or the latest gossip because these conversations fail to fulfill their intellectual and emotional needs. In the search for authenticity, small talk simply does not suffice. In contrast, deeper connections bring a sense of fulfillment and meaning. When we connect with others on a profound level, we experience a sense of validation, a feeling that our thoughts and experiences matter. It is in these moments of profound connection that we truly feel seen, heard, and understood. For intelligent individuals, these connections provide the mental stimulation and emotional depth that are often missing in their day-to-day interactions. The exchange of ideas becomes a vehicle for personal growth, while the emotional resonance of the conversation fosters a sense of belonging that transcends superficiality. On the other hand, the emptiness of superficial interactions becomes increasingly apparent to those who seek depth. Small talk is often formulaic, repetitive, and devoid of any real substance. These conversations may provide temporary comfort, the illusion of connection, but they leave behind a lingering sense of emptiness. The individual may walk away from such exchanges feeling more isolated than when they entered. For intelligent people, these interactions are draining, not enriching. They might find themselves longing for deeper, more meaningful exchanges, but instead they are forced to settle for the superficiality that is so prevalent in everyday social life. This quest for authenticity and depth aligns closely with Friedrich Nietzsche's thoughts on individuality and the herd mentality. Nietzsche was a fierce critic of society's tendency to value conformity over individuality, mediocrity over excellence, and surface-level interactions over deep intellectual and emotional connections. In his view, most people are content to live within the safety of the herd, following the established norms and conventions without question. They engage in small talk because it is comfortable, socially acceptable, and a way to avoid confronting the deeper questions of life. But Nietzsche argued that true authenticity comes from rejecting the herd and choosing to live as an individual. To be an individual is to question societal norms, to challenge the status quo, and to reject superficiality in favor of depth and meaning. Nietzsche believed that most people, in their pursuit of social acceptance, fall victim to what he called the herd mentality, the tendency to follow the crowd, to conform to societal expectations, and to embrace mediocrity rather than striving for greatness. For Nietzsche, this herd mentality was a form of self-betrayal, an abdication of personal responsibility and individuality. For those who reject small talk and seek deep connections, the desire is not to isolate themselves from others, but to connect authentically. They refuse to conform to the social expectation that trivial exchanges are a necessary part of human interaction. Instead, they seek to engage with others on a level that transcends surface appearances. They are not interested in pleasing others with pleasantries. They are interested in having meaningful exchanges that push them to think, grow, and evolve. Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch, or Overman, reflects this ideal of authenticity. The Übermensch is an individual who has overcome the limitations of societal norms and embraces a life of self-determination and personal growth. To live authentically, according to Nietzsche, is to embrace one's individuality, to question societal norms, and to create one's own values. The rejection of small talk is a manifestation of this ideal. It is an act of choosing depth over superficiality, authenticity over conformity, and truth over comfort. For Nietzsche, the struggle against the herd mentality is not just about avoiding small talk, it is about rejecting the conventions that keep individuals from living fully. It is about embracing the discomfort that comes with pursuing truth, challenging assumptions, and living in accordance with one's own values. In a world where superficial interactions dominate, choosing to live authentically and engage in deep, meaningful conversations is an act of defiance against the systems that prioritize mediocrity over depth. Intelligent individuals often avoid small talk, not out of disdain for others, but as a means of preserving their intellectual autonomy and authenticity. In a world where social norms dictate the flow of conversation and interaction, The refusal to engage in superficial exchanges becomes an act of self-preservation. It is not that intelligent individuals dislike people or wish to isolate themselves from society. Rather, they recognize that engaging in shallow conversations can detract from the deeper, more meaningful pursuits that fuel their intellectual and emotional well-being. For them, small talk is a distraction, a barrier that prevents them from exploring more important ideas and engaging in more substantial relationships. By choosing to distance themselves from the trivialities of everyday social interaction, these individuals create the space necessary for deep reflection, intellectual exploration, and self-actualization. Solitude in this context is not a form of avoidance or escapism. It is a freedom. It is the freedom to think without interruption, to reflect without distractions, and to create without the limitations imposed by social expectations. Solitude becomes the fertile ground for intellectual growth, where one can challenge assumptions, dive into new ideas, and clarify their beliefs without the pressure to conform or appease others. In Nietzsche's view, this freedom is an essential component of the Übermensch, the overman or superman, who has transcended the constraints of societal norms and embraced a life of individual self-determination. The Übermensch is not bound by the expectations of the herd. Instead, they create their own values, define their own purpose, and live in accordance with their true nature, free from the shackles of social conformity. For Nietzsche, the Übermensch represents the ideal of human potential, an individual who has risen above the herd mentality and embraced their authentic self. This self-actualization comes not from seeking approval or validation from others, but from independent thought, personal growth, and the courage to live authentically. It is in solitude that the Übermensch finds their true power. The freedom they seek is not external, it is internal, rooted in the ability to think for themselves, to chart their own course, and to refuse the pressures of societal expectation. In a world that often prioritizes conformity, the choice to embrace solitude is not a rejection of society, but a commitment to living truthfully. By rejecting small talk and seeking more profound connections, intelligent individuals are asserting their right to live authentically without the constraints of superficial norms. They are choosing depth over triviality, reflection over distraction, and truth over comfort. Ultimately, the freedom and clarity that come from embracing solitude are the tools necessary for achieving personal fulfillment. Solitude allows individuals to reconnect with their deepest values, to explore their intellectual pursuits without interference, and to craft a life that is truly their own. By embracing solitude and independent thought, they break free from the chains of social conformity and step into a life of intellectual and emotional liberation. The Übermensch is not an abstract ideal. It is a real possibility for anyone who chooses to embrace their authentic self and live according to their own terms. It is through solitude, intellectual autonomy, and a commitment to self-actualization that individuals can break free from the limitations of the herd and live a life of freedom, clarity, and personal fulfillment.